Well, I'm delighted to welcome another lunch break guest onto the programme, and today we talk to Crossroads Care Surrey's Fundraising Manager, who joins them in 2022 and has a long career in a variety of different areas, more recently inspired by things going on in his life, the areas of work that he has decided to work in. So let's talk to David Anand, who joins me on the programme. David, thank you so much for joining us. Lovely to have you with us.
Good morning.
I love the way.
Afternoon.
Yes, it is. It's just crept into afternoon. So I love the way you describe yourself, first of all, as the CEO of your father's life. And the reason that you are involved in what you're doing at the moment is because you're well aware of what it's like to be an unpaid carer.
That's right. Unfortunately, my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2020, and I became his unpaid carer because my mother had passed away in 2014. So I now combine unpaid caring with working for Crossroads Care Surrey, as you say. And yeah, it's like being the unpaid CEO of managing my father's life. And I have to say, out of all the roles I've had in life, paid or unpaid, it's the toughest one I've ever had.
It's hugely challenging, isn't it? And so many people will relate to this, where you've got a lot going on in your own life, you've got work to do, you've got other things to organise, and then you find yourself responsible on top of that for somebody else.
Indeed. When the last census was done in 2021, it identified that there were 2.5 million unpaid carers that were also in employment in England and Wales, that were trying to provide care to a loved one and also trying to earn a living. So it's not uncommon, and it is a very difficult thing to do.
Your career before all of this, you were working for large corporates, you were working in marketing, sales, operations roles. And if you look at the last few years of your career, it's largely been sort of motivated by what's going on in your own life. So you, in 2011, you were diagnosed with prostate cancer, and that provoked, you becoming a volunteer ambassador. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I was working for a company called Zoggs, heading up their marketing in the UK at the time when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And I decided to become an ambassador, a volunteer ambassador for Prostate Cancer UK at that time, after I was diagnosed, to raise awareness. And I did that for about 5 years. And to be honest, I got so much satisfaction out of being able to help and support others that I decided that I wanted to sort of end my career working in the social value charity sector. So in 2018, I joined Transform Housing and Support, a local Surrey organisation that supports homeless and vulnerable people. And I worked for them for 3 years. And whilst I was there, my father was diagnosed. So when the role came up at Crossroads Care Surrey, and Crossroads Care Surrey are a local Surrey charity that supports unpaid carers, I felt that I would be best placed working for them because I was living the life of an unpaid carer. I'm able to talk about what it's like, and also I felt that I would be able to shape their services, particularly their online services that could help unpaid carers. So Crossroads can provide physical help in people's homes, and we also provide online help as well.
We'll talk more actually about what they do, because they did my stepfather, who died fairly recently. He had Alzheimer's, and he Crossroads helped my mum with his care. So I'm very well aware what an important thing that you do in the community. But I'm intrigued by when you got that diagnosis of prostate cancer. Isn't it funny thinking you had this successful career, you were probably at the peak of your career, you never expect that it's going to be you that gets that diagnosis, and that is the diagnosis that really sort of changed the way that you look at things, I imagine. Tell us about the moment that you were told that you had cancer.
Yeah, I think like anybody, it's quite a shocking and disturbing moment. And looking back on it, it was a huge life-changing moment. And as someone explained to me at that point, you kind of have two choices of the way to handle it. You can either become a bitter man about it, or you can try and become a better man. and I definitely wanted to choose the latter course. So it was a way of using that awful diagnosis to say, what can I now do to make things better for other people? And it's amazing by doing that, the things that come back to you, and the experiences you have that you would never have had you just become that bitter man and sat at home and just focused on yourself. So it has led me to do these other things, which I'm very grateful for. And I consider myself to be really lucky because my diagnosis caught the cancer early. I was treated successfully. And yeah, I've been able to go on and do what I do now.
Interesting as well in that, we all go through work sort of trying to scrabble our way up the pay scale, and you decide that you will take a pay cut because you were so passionate about working for the charity social value sector. Was that hard to do though? Because you get used to spending what comes in, don't you?
You do. You definitely do. I think you weigh up. Well, fortunately, I was getting towards the end of my career, so I could probably afford to do it a little more than other people. But the satisfaction that I got working as a volunteer for Prostate Cancer UK, I mean, I was in the evenings, I was doing talks about prostate cancer, and people were going to get checked based on the information I was giving. And I was then meeting those people, a few years later, and they'd come up to me and say, "Oh, thank you for prolonging my life. What you said that evening, I acted upon it, and I'm still here today because of that." Now, there is no work that I've done prior to that where I had that impact on other people's lives. What I was doing wasn't anywhere near as important as that. So you kind of weigh up that and say, wow, that's what I want to be doing. That's how I want to be spending my time. It may not pay as well, but the personal satisfaction it gives you as an individual is just huge.
So you joined, David, in 2022, sort of well aware of the challenges that carers face.
That's right. Yeah. I joined because I'd become an unpaid carer myself. So I had some idea of the difficulties involved, and I wanted to offer my help and support. Crossroads Care Surrey, as you say, they're a charity that supports people that care unpaid for another person. And last year they supported about 3,500 people across Surrey, mainly by providing them with respite breaks from caring. So Crossroads have over 90 qualified care support workers that can go into people's homes and take over from the unpaid carer, and allow that unpaid carer to have some time out to go and do normal things that we all take for granted. Meet a friend, take the dog for a walk, get your hair cut, but give you a break from constantly having to care for another person. They also do companionship visits. We do end-of-life care, which enables people to complete their life in their own home if that's their choice. We have an emergency care planning service and a Surrey Carers card. So there's various ways that we can physically help people right across Surrey. But what I wasn't aware of when I joined was that in Surrey, according to the 2021 census, it estimated that there are 120,000 unpaid carers in Surrey. So that's roughly 10% of Surrey's population are providing unpaid care. I mean, the numbers are enormous.
That is huge, isn't it? And what it means as well. I mean, I know from experience in my family that it can be such an isolating role to play, as things like dementia, Alzheimer's get more challenging as it progresses. And it means that, you are that respite, just being able to go out for an afternoon can make all the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is life-changing to an unpaid carer. But the other thing, the good thing that Crossroads Care Surrey does, and I've been pleased to help shape this part of the service, is that we provide online services for people. So we've just created an unpaid carers hub. Now, that hub is for all unpaid carers, and it basically is a route map which tells you what you should do first. And the first thing an unpaid carer should do is register with their GP that they're caring for somebody, because they're then more likely to get priority with their own appointments because someone else's health depends on theirs. And also it opens up a carer's assessment, which you can have, which takes into account your needs as a carer, and opens up services, the availability of services like Crossroads Care Surrey. And then on their Unpaid Carers Hub, it tells you the things that or the benefits that you may be entitled to. And there are a number of benefits that you could be entitled to. But what I found when I became an unpaid carer is that nobody really told me about all of these things. I heard about one or two things, and other things I found out along the way, where a route map is now telling people these are all the benefits that you could be entitled to. And there are quite a lot as well.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that you're so caught up in the caring, and also a lot of these benefits, the way to find out about them is online. A lot of older people that might be caring don't necessarily feel comfortable with that arena of discovering things. So it's very, and also the benefit system can be quite complicated to navigate.
It can, it definitely can. I mean, I think the important thing is for people to know that these benefits are out there, and then to see whether they're eligible for them. But I'll give you an example. I mean, my father doesn't have to. My father lives in his own house at the moment, and he doesn't have to pay council tax because he has a mental impairment. Now, I didn't find out about that till much later, and that is quite often the case. So what we're saying to people is check out council tax and council tax discounts and see if you're eligible, because it's not often you're told about these things from the outset. And obviously, by not paying council tax, that then pays for other care services that support my father. So I would advise people to go onto the Crossroads Care Surrey website and look at their online services. I say there's an unpaid carers hub there, which gives you the route map of basically what you should do, what you should know, and who you need to be talking to. And then alongside that, because we know that, you know, there's over half of the unpaid carers are people that have to work, we've created an employers hub. And this hub is for employers who may be employing unpaid carers to get help and advice on how best to support them in the workplace. And they can then route them to the Unpaid Carers Hub to get that support as an individual. So I think it's very important that there's both this physical and online help that's available.
You have to. There's a lot that you're doing, so a lot available. People can go to your website and find out more. But it's your role to actually raise funds for this, and I'm assuming that's quite a challenging role. We've got, as you say, a huge amount of unpaid carers. It's only going to go up because people are living longer, and issues like dementia and Alzheimer's are becoming, a bigger issue. So where do you start? How do you start with the fundraising element of things?
That's a very good question. I think if you ask any charity fundraiser, it's hugely challenging at this moment in time. The way that I look at it is I try to, from a corporate side, I try to find organisations that are linked in some way to the care sector. Now, for example, that could be solicitors, that could be financial planners that are involved in later life financial planning for people. It could be funeral arrangers. It could be anybody working in that care environment that have a connection with us, because at the end of the day, the unpaid carers that we support are also their customers or potential customers. So it makes sense to work with them. Another obvious link would be care homes for me. Because as an unpaid carer, when you can no longer cope at home with your loved one, quite often a care home is the next logical step. So our customers of today are potentially their customers of tomorrow. So it's important that we build those connections and make the transition easier for people. So when I'm fundraising, I tend to think along those lines, and I try to create things that are different. and that are interesting. So we recently staged their "I'm a Director, Get Me Out of Here" fundraiser, which was the second year we've run the event. And the whole idea of that is to get directors from different companies across Surrey to take part, to raise money, but also to raise awareness. And the awareness is from those directors spreading the information about unpaid caring through their organisations, so that we can reach those unpaid carers that are in employment. So it's all connected in some form.
Your work is never done by the sound of it, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and have you as our lunch break guest. And I'm assuming people can find out more on the website. Where can we go to find out about what you do?
Yeah, if you type into any search bar, Google, whatever, Crossroads Care Surrey, our website will come up, and we've just launched a new website, and the information hopefully is very, very clear on the help that we can provide you.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us as our lunch break guest today. Another lunch break, same time tomorrow.